Hello, welcome. I am so glad to have you with us here at Penobscot Marine Museum. Write your questions and comments below. We love hearing from you. I'm excited about our topic today, dangerous cargoes. This is a schooner, four-masted, called the Nancy Hanks. It was built in Thomaston, Maine in 1917. It was named for President Abraham Lincoln's mother, which, by the way, I love this. Someone reasoned Lincoln was a great man. He must have had an amazing mom. So I'm going to name my ship after her. The schooner made many trips to ports such as Cape Town, Buenos Aires, Barcelona, Jacksonville, New York, and carried cargoes such as coal, lumber, salt, and lime. Lime rocks were quarried in Rockport and were burned in kilns to create quicklime, which is used for building materials such as plaster. Other ships did not fare as well as the Nancy Hanks, which made multiple trips with coal and lime. Quicklime can spontaneously combust if it gets wet. So sure, let's put a big pile of quicklime onto a wooden schooner out in the water. So this is what's left of the Jenny A. Cheney. Built in Thomaston in 1870, in 1892, a quicklime fire smoldered for a full 14 weeks through multiple attempts to put it out. She was finally scuttled, meaning intentionally sank. And as the hull sunk down into the water and the water hit the remaining bits of lime in the hold, the Jenny Cheney burst into flames. This photo from 1938 shows the skeleton still visible, sticking up above the water. We are Penobscot Marine Museum. We are glad to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Write your questions and comments below. We love hearing from you. This is Millicent Dao. She was born in 1851 in North Searsport. She married Captain Charles Nichols, and they sailed together on his ship, the PATOS. Millicent kept a journal of the passage. They sailed from Hull, England, with a cargo of coal towards Valparaiso, Chile. She writes, October 22nd, 1874, first day at sea, weather fine and pleasant, but wind dead ahead. Her journal entries continued through the end of January 1875 when they were trying to round Cape Horn, when she wrote, this morning it was nearly calm, but a fine breeze sprang up about noon, and now we are going at a good rate. 3 vessels in sight today. A great deal of steam comes from the cargo, filling the cabin. The steam that she mentioned proved to be smoke. The coal in the ship's hold had spontaneously combusted. She says on January 31st, 102 days out, since I have last written in my journal, we have had a sad and sudden change. At 12 o'clock last night, we discovered the cargo of coals to be on fire. At daylight, we saw a bark steering for us. We took to the boats and succeeded in getting on board of her safely. Being 4 months pregnant, she was lowered in a chair into the lifeboat when they saw a vessel, the English bark PASITHEA. Only a few days later, On the new ship that they got safely onto, the PASITHEA, now the PASITHEA is trying to get around Cape Horn too and struggling. And the captain of the PASITHEA asks Charles Nichols for help when the ship gets into danger. And Nichols saved the PASITHEA from going around on Desolation Island off of Antarctica. So each captain saved each other. And you can see way, way down here, this is these are islands that are off of a spit off of Antarctica. And this is Desolation Island here. And it's way far south of Cape Horn. So they were in storms or something that blew them all the way down there. And Captain Nichols saved the ship. So Cape Horn is going to come up again. This is very dangerous. You can see how rocky it is, and it's frequently stormy. I have another story for you. This is our last story. And before I tell you this one, I just want to say again, thank you so much for joining Penobscot Marine Museum. Write your questions and comments below. Bessie Dickinson set out from Maine with her mom, her sister Grace, and her dad, Captain Wiley Dickinson, on the ship Rappahannock. And that's the ship that you see in this photograph here. They sailed over to Liverpool, took on a cargo of soft charcoal for San Francisco. After rounding Cape Horn, smoke started coming out of the hatch from below. Sound familiar? So going back to Cape Horn. So once again, they're going around Cape Horn. You have to picture this at 90 degrees. In our maps, we often have, South America going up and down and Cape Horn coming down. So you'll have to picture this turned 90 degrees to the left. So they rounded Cape Horn. They're going up along the coast of Chile. They're headed to San Francisco. But Valparaiso right here is a city that often was a stop along the way. And so they round the Cape, they come alongside, and they're starting to see smoke coming out of the hold. And they're around here. So the nearest land is the islands of Juan Fernandez that you see up in the corner here. So that being the closest land, that's where they're going to head. We have in our collections at the Penobscot Marine Museum the actual ship's log of the Rappahannock in our collections. So I can read you the exact words right from the first mate's pen. He says, "Captain reports strong smell of gas coming into the bathroom. Latter part, wind. Get around to east. Very light crew employed scraping mizzenmast and working on mainsail. Vaporous gas escaping from mizzen hatchway. Mizzen is the middle. Mizzen hatchway and strong odor in the cabin. Great fear of ship being on fire. At noon, island Juan Fernandez bore north-northeast about 20 miles, ship heading straight for the island. Latitude 34 degrees, 3 minutes, longitude 79 degrees, 25 minutes. Light pumps carefully attended. Tuesday, the 10th of November, 1891. Begins with very light wind and clear sky. Crew at work scraping mizzenmast and other general cleaning. 2 men on the mainsail repairing it. Smoke and gas escaping from the fore and after hatch. At 8 p.m., the worst fear were developed. smoke visible in both ends of the ship, knew that our cargo was on fire. All the hatches was battened down and all haste made to reach Cumberland Bay. Wind ahead, tacked as required. The night passing very slow, wind baffling at daylight. So picture this, their cargo is on hold, their cargo is on fire down in the hold, and they're trying to get to safety. And of course, the wind is baffling and light, and they're having to tack, and they can't just head straight there. The wind is not cooperating. He continues, had one anchor in the shoe, the gas so strong forward that we could not live in it. The carpenter and one seaman were prostrated, abandoned the idea of getting the starboard anchor ready. No man could stand the vapor. Got 2 boats off from the forward house, one to the main deck and one to the poop deck. At 7 a.m., boat from ashore came alongside, asked if they could take us into anchorage. So someone from the shore noticed that something bad is happening out there and sent a boat to check in on them. Told him our condition, said we could get into anchor, but they had no provisions on the island to provide us with. So the people on the island say, yeah, you can come, but we have no food at all. So he continues. We were getting out of the half deck all we could, as fast as we could, from the time we got the boats into position where we could put them out. Some of the men getting up tackles, some hoisting stores, some filling bread from the tanks, and doing all we could to reach anchorage and expecting momentarily disastrous fire to break out. Came to anchor about noon, close to the shore in 12 fathoms water. Great excitement prevailing, some hands getting boats out, some furling sails, and boats crew from shore with some of our men getting lines fast to the beach to haul ship into shoal water. At dark, or 8 p.m., we had our wire hawser fast to shore, wired to chain, and hauled the ship into 4.5 fathoms water. Let the men go to get some food. So meaning going back to the ship, trying to get more provisions to make sure they had enough food to feed everyone. Half hour later, the whole crew, were passing provisions and getting such things as we could into the boats. Sent 2 of them to anchor, kept the shore boat and one of our own alongside. At midnight, had an explosion midships in pump well room, blowing off the hatch. Sent the crew away from the ship except for a few. The second mate and captain was below for such things as they could get when another explosion occurred, filling the cabin with gas and smoke. Those in the boats called to them, said, the side of the ship is broken out. Hurry for your lives to the boats. Everyone left the ship, not safe to remain longer on board. Got the carpenter from shore, cut a hole in the ship side to scuttle the ship. But another explosion took place, which blowed the topgallant, forecastle, and main deck halfway to the foretop. So the foretop is 100 feet up in the air. Could see all under the forward house, sending the deck, plank, hatch, forward house, and longboat into the air and to pieces. This was about 4:30 a.m. I was on the beach landing the stores and looking after them, which work began at midnight. A great fire was the result of the last explosion, being the 4th since midnight. At sunrise, both ends of the ship was in flames. By 10 a.m., the mast had fallen and the ship burning as fast as she could. Only a light southerly wind at the time and smooth sea. At the end of the day, only a charred and burning mass of the ship Rappahannock remained, in witness whereof we set our hand this 18th day of November, 1891. James McCarran, first mate, Peter Bedson, second mate, Charles Dunbar, carpenter, H.C. Holdlet, ordinary seaman. So they lived on the island for 2 weeks when a passing steamer came by, took all of the crew and the captain and his family, Bessie and her sister and her mom, took them all to Valparaiso. Upon leaving the island, a young man, Manuel Carrera, gave Bessie a Chilean flag to remember them by, which we also have in our collection. So let's take a look, see if you have any questions. And while we're doing that, thank you so much to our members and donors for making this happen. Thank you to the National Endowment for the Humanities. This programming has been made possible in part by the National Endowment for the Humanities, Exploring the Human Endeavor. Next week, Friday at noon, rescue boats, more excitement. Any questions, Gina?
Doesn't look like any questions this week, but if you do have questions later, you can write them in the comments section and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Thank you very much for watching, and take care.